What's up? Good morning, good afternoon. Today is going to be another little lesson. Today's lesson is going to be on ShipBoard chain of command. I've been asked this a lot by friends, some family, and so I figured I'd make a little video on it. I'll go through each of the departments. Don't quote me on the other departments, but first off is deck department, because I'm an AB. We'll go from bottom up. The very bottom is the OS. OS stands for ordinary seaman, and the ordinary seaman basically does all the day work, any of the deck maintenance. He's a day worker. Next up, you go AB, and AB is able body seaman. He does basically the watch standing, steering of the ship, and that's pretty much it. Right now, I'm doing a watch. I'm on a security rover watch. Yes, I am actually doing something besides this video. After the AB comes the bosun. Now, a bosun is still just an AB, but the bosun basically is in charge of the OS and the AB's overtime deck maintenance if he's doing it. Also, with an AB, there's basically two levels. You got an AB blue and an AB green. An AB blue is any AB that doesn't have 1,080 days yet. An AB green is an AB who has been sailing for 1,080 days, which is like 3 years. Basically, he knows what he's doing, and he can go to become a bosun or bosun mate. So again, you got OS, AB, bosun. Next comes the third mate, the second mate, chief mate, and captain. So third mate's job is life-saving equipment, anything to do with life-saving equipment. Second mate's job is navigation, basically doing charts, making the routes. Chief mate's job is to oversee everyone below him. He's also usually the security officer and handles cargo. He oversees the cargo. Captain, which the captain is, as everyone knows, in charge of the entire ship. He oversees everything, does all the paperwork. A lot of people, when I tell them that I'm an AB, I drive the ship, they're like misconstrued is the word I guess I would use, where they think that the captain drives the ship. The captain really don't do much besides oversee everything, fill out paperwork, you know, the customs paperwork or any kind of legal paperwork going on between countries and different ports. So yeah, OS, AB, bosun, third mate, second mate, chief mate, captain. Now, I basically, if you think of it as the bosun is kind of like the manager of the deck department. Chief mate would be the boss. Captain would be the boss's boss. Yeah, I think that's it for the deck department. You got steward department, and the steward department's pretty easy. Steward department, you have the SA, the chief cook, and the chief steward. The SA is the steward's assistant. He does the dishwashing and helps with the meal preps. You got chief cook, which he does exactly what his name is. He's the chief cook. Does the majority of the cooking, and then the chief steward, who also does the cooking, but technically, if you look in like any kind of handbook, The chief steward just handles the breakfast, and then the chief cook handles lunch and dinner. But they all work together, really. Chief steward's in charge of the entire galley department, steward department. So that's the steward, or the galley department. Like I said, pretty easy. Now, the engine side basically has the same kind of chain of command as the deck department. I'll just say them all and then I'll talk about them, I guess. You have the wiper, the oiler, Q-Med, third assistant engineer, second assistant engineer, first assistant engineer, chief engineer. The wiper, same thing as an OS. The wiper basically he's a wiper. He cleans up after anything that's going on in the engine department. The oiler is basically the same as an AB. He keeps up on little maintenance things around the engine room. Next up from the oiler would be a Q-Med. So just like there's AB blue, AB green, you have an oiler and then a Q-Med. Now, Q-Med stands for Qualified Member of the Engine Department. Basically, he's more qualified than an oiler, as in he's done more time, he's taken more classes, he knows a little more on... As you become a Q-Med, you take more electrician classes, plumbing classes, there's just more engineering to it than an oiler, which basically does rounds, tops off fluids and stuff. Again, don't quote me on this, it's just how I see it and what I know so far. And then I don't really know that you got the third assistant engineer, second assistant engineer. I don't really know their jobs particularly, but I mean, same thing. They just, the higher up you go in the engine department, the more classes you know, the more classes you take, the more in-depth you know into fixing the machinery, working on the electricity and stuff. The first assistant engineer oversees everyone in the engine department, and on top of him is the chief engineer, which oversees everything. You could think of the chief engineer kind of like the captain of the engine room, but at the same time the captain of the ship is still in charge of everybody. Now, even though you got almost equal on both sides of deck and engine, where you have the first assistant engineer and then the chief engineer, the chief mate is kind of like the first assistant captain in a way. So the chief engineer would be like the captain, like I said, except if everything goes to hell and say the captain is no longer aboard or the captain no longer exists, in the book it actually states that if the captain is not here, then the chief mate is second in command. So he takes control of everything. So even though if you look at it, you got the chief mate, which is like the first assistant captain in a sense, and then you got the first assistant chief engineer, who are both below a captain and below a chief engineer. The chief mate, if all else fails and there's no captain, is still in charge of everybody. It's the way I see it. So that's the chain of command. As an AB guy on the deck side, if I have a problem, I would go to my bosun. Even though the bosun is technically an AB, same equal guy as me, he does get paid a little bit more to be in that management position. So if I have a problem, I would go to the bosun. If the bosun doesn't fix it, then I would go up the chain of command to the chief mate. Now if the chief mate doesn't resolve my problem, then I would go up the chain of command to the captain. Now, if the captain doesn't solve my problem, which typically the captain will solve the problem because you want to keep problems in-house, you don't want to go outside the house. But if the captain doesn't solve my problem, then there actually is we call a DPA, designated person ashore. Now the DPA is basically the company's representative of that ship. So if I had a problem and I went to the bosun, he didn't help. I went to the chief mate and he didn't help. I went to the captain and he turned his shoulder. I can go to the DPA, which he's not even on the ship. He's the designated person ashore representative for the company, and he would fix my problem. Now, if he doesn't fix my problem, I might as well just quit, get off the ship, find a new job. But that's it. That's all I got for you guys. So there'll be more to come. More knots to come, definitely. Whole lot of knots. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe. Please like and share my videos, guys. Thanks.